maybe a minute before 5. And I'm here. My cat just heard me talking, so she's coming in to say good morning, even though I've been up for a while. Our friend Jace is live streaming right now. He's getting ready to get his workout in. He's giving a nice inspirational talk explaining the workout. So, guys, make sure you check him out. We are continuing with the Tao Te Ching. We're on verse 52, which means that we now have less than 30 days to go. One verse a day. We're reading Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. This isn't a translation of the Tao. It is Dr. Wayne Dyer's interpretation of the Tao Te Ching, and he offers suggestions on how we can open up and allow the Tao to be expressed through us, which is what he did through the course of a year, when he just gave himself completely over to the study, the meditation, and the expression of the Tao. And honestly, from that point on, his life was very, very much that of a Taoist sage. It was one of surrender, one of letting go, and I think his talks, as well as his life itself, became a testament to that. Really wonderful to see. I became familiar with Wayne Dyer in the 80s. There's my cat. And his books were firmly in that self-help expression. In the 70s, it was looking out for number one type of stuff. Not that he wrote that book, but it was about, self-actualizing. It was about self. How do we, I'm bringing up my desktop real quick. How do we improve the self? How do we enlarge the self? How do we live a life that is about self-success? And through the years, you could see, and he was featured very prominently on the cover of all of his books. Chin up, chest out. That was where he was in his life. It's where we all find ourselves in those stages of life. However, as he proceeded, as his books gained more of a deeper meaning, he became very humble. In his books, you started seeing him looking less self-assured and more attuned, having his head down in prayer. And again, it was wonderful to follow along with that path with him. Let's see. Is that Oni Malanga? Malanga G? Hello, my friend. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. So, anyway, we're reading his book. Let's see. Well, hello to you, my friend. Good morning. Good morning from here. Verse 52. I'm sorry. All under heaven have a common beginning. This beginning is the mother of the world. Having known the mother, we may proceed to know her children. Having known the children, we should go back and hold on to the mother. Keep your mouth shut, guard the senses, and life is ever full. Open your mouth, always be busy, and life is beyond hope. Seeing one small is called clarity. Keeping flexible is called strength. Using the shiny radiance, you return again to the light and save yourself misfortune. This is called the practice of eternal life. The practice of eternal light. Let's see. Ario says, do you believe in providence? Man, that's a good question. I'll be honest. I don't know. I think that we shape providence moment by moment by moment, and that we can do so by holding on and clinging to the past, which means we bring the past into the present moment, or we can practice the art of letting go. Or as it says in verse 52, we practice the art of the eternal light. And when we see the eternal light within everything, every moment, we're free of providence. We only have this moment. Any good books? Yep, I'm reading um, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, which is an interpretation of the Tao Te Ching offered by Dr. Wayne Dyer. Mir is here. Mir, my friend, good morning. Brooklyn Man says, amen. Hey, Brooklyn, how are you? Mir says, how are you, sir? And all friends, I'm good. Starting my Sunday morning off. We're reading, well, actually, I've been up since 2:30, so I'm coming up on 3 hours into my day. I absolutely love my mornings. It starts off with a prayer of thankfulness, just a simple thank you. All we need to do. As Meister Eckhart, the 13th century Christian mystic, said, the only prayer we ever said was thank you. That would be enough. Brooklyn says, I'm so negative and overthink too much. Give me some good advice, man. I'm not much on advice, although it seems like I give it. I'm not much on advice because I don't know what I have to offer. And not knowing what I have to offer is actually a pretty good thing. It means I'm not certain. It means I don't have the belief that my opinion means anything to anyone, including myself. And when you think of all the negative thoughts we have, all the negativity itself, it's just an opinion. It's just thoughts. How about if you let those thoughts go? How about if every time you had a negative thought, you simply recognized it? You didn't try to change it. You didn't try to replace it with a positive thought. You just smiled at it and realized that's just my opinion. My opinion doesn't mean anything to anyone, including myself. It's a collection of thoughts. Of course, we can give it meaning, and we can make demands. The world needs to respect my opinion. Everyone needs to respect my opinion. Of course, they don't. And we're just put ourselves in a world of suffering, a world of misery, because we're putting our demands out there. Instead of demands, if we simply had a preference, life is so much easier with a preference than a demand. And every one of our opinion is just a demand that the world be in this way when it isn't. So how about if we just preferred? And when we prefer, we start to hold things lightly, loosely. And man, life becomes free. We're no longer bound by our good opinion. We just proceed through life with this lightness of heart. That's what in the Tao, at the very end, it says, this is called the practice of eternal light. So let's get caught up here. Mir says he's good, sir. Glad to hear that. And you're welcome. Raptor, the Kitson. What's your favorite dinosaur? It's a good question. I haven't thought of dinosaurs in ages. Let's go with the raptors. They just seem so quick. And when Suicide says, yep, never done crack. Actually, I haven't. That's not to say I haven't done my share of recreational drugs in the past. Crack does not seem like a recreational drug. And in my days, my partying days, it was easier. You know, I didn't want to do the hard stuff. I couldn't afford the hard stuff. And they didn't really have crack back then. So, yeah, you know, I smoked some pot. I did a lot of hallucinogenics. And then in the 90s, I decided to slowly drink myself into oblivion. It's not a good decade. I thought I was having fun, but I wasn't. And I had a moment of great clarity and awakening in 1999. And in an instant, in a moment, alcohol left me. Just had this realization that if I wanted to, I never ever had a drink ever again. And for whatever reason, I stepped on that path, never looked back. And that was it. Let's see. Ario says, I resonate with what you just explained, but feel so lost and helpless in the West of vast consumerism. Man, I'm with you on that. It's difficult. However, be a light upon yourself. As Gandhi said, let your life be your message. That doesn't mean that you give up all aspects of consumerism, but it means that you're not lost within the game. Um, it's a book in the 80s, Infinite Games and Finite Games. Consumerism is a finite game. Sometimes you got to play it reluctantly. However, know that you are really playing an infinite game, and that in that infinite game, you're free of consumerism. That way, you use it as little as possible. Man, we have to get by in life these days, but that unless we become a total renunciant. And I'm actually all for that path of renunciation, but it's not renouncing the world and walking away from it. It's renouncing and going deep within ourselves and knowing that we are guided by a higher message, that we are guided by our own infinite existence and not by these little games of consumerism, of commercialism, of politics, that we are guided by our own eternal light. Mario says, one candle light another. Exactly. Wonderful message. Infinite games and finite games. We get to choose which one we're playing. Even when it seems like we're playing these infinite games, we know that we belong to something larger. Aria says, my loved ones are engulfed in it. It coasts the entire nation. Here's something that's been hitting me again in A Course in Miracles. I started studying the Course in Miracles in the early 1990s, but somehow 30 plus, almost 40 years later, a lot of the messages are hitting me on a deeper level. Do not seek to change the world. Seek to change your perception of the world. Meaning, we can't change the world. The world can be tough. It can be difficult. It can suck. That's for sure. These finite games can seem to be great, can seem to be draining. However, if we seek to change our perception of the world, everything begins to change in and of itself. And the way we begin to make these interchanges through forgiveness, we realize that it's our thoughts and our beliefs based upon fear that we're projecting out into the world. When you forgive those projections, the world begins to change. You become the message. People look at you and think, how does this person have such a sense of ease and freedom and lightness? And then you tell them, do not seek to change the world, seek to change your perception of the world. And then they start doing that. And collectively, the world begins to change. Nothing else has ever worked. Think about it. We've had some great messengers. We've had Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad. We've had Lao Tzu. We had Buddha. But has any great changes ever taken place? People shape these great beliefs and faith to their own image. And the world continues with the Tao they call the 10,000 things. So we got to turn within. We got to be our own change. We can't depend on others because there are no others. There's only us. Make that change yourself, and let's guide the world in a different way. Mary Lou TVs is here. I appreciate you stopping by, my friend. Thank you. She says 4. Yep, 4 likes. Awesome. Let's see. USMC, U.S. Marine Corps? If it is, thank you for your service, my friend. My wife, technically ex-wife, served 23 years in the Air Force. Ever read the Grimm fairy tales? So you have a lot of books. I actually have Grimm's fairy tale on my books that someone gave me. It's been a long time since I've read them, though. So we're going to wrap things up in just a minute. Ryan says, what's up, man? Not much. How are you? Good morning to you. Good morning to you from me. I don't know where you are. I'm on the East Coast of the US, so it is almost 5:15. I was reading from Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, which is an interpretation of the Tao Te Ching from Dr. Wayne Dyer. All right, so those bookshelves look like they're almost ready to fall. Yeah, they probably are. Um, the books are in disarray because I'm always pulling books out and putting them back and pulling things out, using them for reference, um, things that I write about. I write every morning. Ryan says, doing well from Kansas City, Missouri, home of the Kansas City Chiefs, which appears to me, I don't watch a lot of football, um, but it appears to me it's another dynasty in the making, if it's not already a dynasty. I gotta be honest with you. I love those decades of dynasties from the 1960s with the Green Bay Packers, the 70s, we had the Steelers. I was born in Pittsburgh, so hey. Um, and then in the 80s, San Francisco. I guess in the early 2000s, we had, I don't know if there's one in the 90s, but in the early 2000s, of course, New England. Ryan says 3 feet on the way. You know what? I hope so, man. I hope so. I can at once, we all can really. I can root for a dynasty and I can root for the upset. You know, the little team that comes along out of nowhere and beats it, and then the dynasty coming back the next year. However it plays out, I love the drama of it. You know what I mean? When you don't take things so seriously, then you can allow life to play out the way it does. You can root for one thing without rooting against something else. But I don't want to touch too much on politics. Every so often people say, you know, this guy or that guy. Here's my answer. All of us. That's who I root for. I root for our country. I root for our world, our nation, that we can all be healed, that we can all come together. As soon as we split things, as soon as we say, well, this guy, that means that half the country or almost half the country are wrong. And no one wants to be wrong. You make half the country wrong, and then we got resentment, and nothing happens with resentment. Aria says, I was going to ask you about Peter Thiel. That name sounds familiar. I can't place it right off bat though. Give me a little bit of background on that. There is a great Taoist, also claimed by some Buddhist master, who wrote The Great Way, and it says the Great Way is instantly divided, instantly split as soon as we enter a distinction. That doesn't necessarily mean that distinctions are bad. It just means that when we put in that distinction, everything is split. What seems to be one, which seems to be whole, is now split into what they say in the Tao Te Ching, the 10,000 things. Ah, he's a founder of PayPal. That's where I recognize it. They've been talking about him in the news a little bit lately. He's a founder of PayPal, a peer of Elon Musk, and he backs J.D. Vance, who was the vice presidential candidate. Don't know enough about him other than, hey, he's a vegan, right? And he's gay, which is weird because he's backing someone who's taken an anti-gay stance. But that's probably as much that I know. Seems to me, when you are one thing and you back the opposite, it becomes about self-interest. And if it becomes about self-interest, then you're willing to harm others for your own benefit. not an admirable quality in my own opinion. I take my own opinion very lightly. Um, let's see. Ario says he's influenced by James Burnham. That name I don't recognize. He names his companies after OOTR. This is a lot of stuff I don't know about, so I really can't offer an opinion other than um, I don't understand the whole concept of being against things. You know, decades and decades and decades ago, uh, a radio host was interviewing Mother Teresa, and he said, I noticed that you never protest the war. Obviously, you're against the war. Obviously, you're, want peace. Why don't you ever lead a protest? Because thousands, if not millions, of people would follow you. And she said, I refuse to be anti war because that gives my energy to war. As soon as you're against something, you're lending your energy to the very thing that you're seeking to get rid of. But if you have a march for peace, if you have a march to end world hunger, if you have a march for something, I'll lead it. So anything in politics that we think anti whatever, we're seeking to make other people wrong for who and what they are, which just doesn't work. Because no one's going to wake up in the morning and say, man, I've been wrong. It would be nice. But who's to say this person's right, this person's wrong? It's not how we heal. However, um, if we have that understanding, let's look past who might be right, who might be wrong. How can we heal? How can we come together, look past the issue, and heal each other? What is the solution for healing versus how do we keep dividing? Or we can keep doing things the way we've been doing it and we keep getting the very same results. And I think it was Einstein who said, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the very definition of insanity. Course in Miracles says we live in an insane world. And of course we do. Look at what we're doing. We keep doing the same thing. And then we wonder how come we're not at peace? How come children still go to bed starving when our country alone produces enough food to feed every single starving person in the world, that we have the technology to provide shelters for every single homeless person in the world? There should be no such thing as a homeless vet. There shouldn't. This is a big issue with, again, with my ex-wife. 23 and a half years in the Air Force. She's now retired. Um, it breaks her heart to consider that there is someone who served their country who's homeless due to bad circumstances, due to mental health issues, due to whatever. When we always come back to, because this person is homeless because of mental health issues, this person is homeless because of bad investments, because of whatever. Get rid of the because. Who cares why? Fix it. Give someone shelter. Let's see. Mir says, so Yogi, great job. Thank you, Mir, my friend. Speaking of great jobs, our friend Mir does a wonderful job supporting so many people. If you see him live, if you see him do a live stream, he's featuring hawks, birds of prey, predators, and cats, believe it or not. Just beautiful nature videos. Great thing to have up and watch throughout the day. So if you get the opportunity, subscribe, visit, spend some time, give him a like, share out his stuff, because it's beautiful work. And he's a great, great, great man. He's a great soul. Guys, I'm heading outside. I'm taking my sunrise walk. I like to call them my gratitude walks. Just a way to be grateful, welcoming whatever the day is going to bring me. And it starts with light. It starts with the sunlight. man, I appreciate the conversation and the questions. I'll be back. I'll be live again. I'm always live, guys. Um, about 1 o'clock Eastern time. If you're bored, if you got nothing to do, come on by, hang out, ask some more questions, talk about whatever you want to talk about. We'll have some fun. I'll see you guys later. Take care. Yours is great. Thumbs up. Thumbs up to you, my friend.